Good evening and welcome to Viewpoint. Last week, with the help of the Gibraltar Alzheimer's and Dementia Society and some very brave, generous individuals, we got a real insight into what it means to live with dementia. Many of our viewers, like us, were struck by the seemingly endless supply of loving care being given at home by some.
When it happens to you, it changes your life.
She thinks, obviously, it's me when I was a baby.
Take a day at a time.
Part 1 of Living with Dementia is available on our YouTube channel. Search for GBC Newsroom. Tonight, Viewpoint brings you our second report on this topic. We're focusing on the decision to move a loved one into a care home, like Mount Alvernia, and what the experience of having a loved one in such a care home is like for relatives of people living with advanced dementia.
She did a good job in caring for me. Now it's my turn. It's my turn to look after my mum.
When the time comes that you do need to move your loved one into a facility that cares for them more than you can, be prepared to do that.
My heart says she stays at home.
The day came, unfortunately. That day was really terrible for me.
My head is that she shouldn't be at home.
What is dementia? It's a term for cognitive decline and usually starts with forgetfulness. As it advances, though, people lose the ability to look after themselves and many require round-the-clock care.
I think that I would like people to see dementia, as you said before, hope, that there is life after a diagnosis of dementia, that the whole community needs to work together, and as especially that there needs to be greater support from relevant departments, towards the families.
Across the world, people are generally living longer than ever before. At present, about 50 million people around the world have dementia, a number expected to rise to 82 million by 2030 and to 150 million by 2050. Dementia is already considered by many to be a global emergency. Even now, more people live with it than can be looked after humanely. Sadly, no cure is in the offing, and no society has devised a sustainable way to provide and pay for the care that people with it will need.
Yes, in the interview that you conducted with me when I first arrived in Gibraltar, I mentioned one of my hopes was to become involved and to help promote understanding of dementia. And for me, it's one of those hidden diseases that only manifest themselves at certain times. And I'm reminded that at this moment in time, over 500 people we know about have some element of dementia in Gibraltar here alone. And I was horrified by a statistic I heard earlier today that by 2050, at least 131 million people in the world will suffer from dementia. And of course, dementia encompasses a whole range of diseases of the brain, everything from Alzheimer's to vascular dementia. These are all diseases of the brain, which are basically, as it was described to me, the little light bulbs in the brain, one by one, are going off. If you can imagine a Christmas tree full of Christmas lights, and very slowly, each one of those is going off over time. And so people with dementia can just about remember those things that happened a long, long time ago, but they can't remember what they did half an hour ago. And it manifests itself in many ways, but if you walk down Main Street, you might find a lady or a gentleman who just stops, and you can see on their face a blankness, and they're not sure what to do next. And so to be understanding of dementia is to be able to spot it in a distance and be able to help that individual who may be suffering from it. And it's not a disease that comes with age. Younger people can get this disease, so people in their 40s and their 50s can suffer as well as those who are later in life. So I think making people aware of what is dementia will allow them to spot it if they might not otherwise spot irregular behaviour, and help that person out in Main Street, Europa Point, or wherever it may be that you are.
Viewpoint is looking at the experience of living with dementia. In Gibraltar, the number of such people is rising. Governments, including ours, are thinking about how best to provide long-term care for people with dementia. For all countries, as the number of people with dementia continues to climb, finance could be a problem. The increasing burden will inevitably fall on individuals and on the taxpayer.
Mum, she was small, strong, super independent, feisty, super feisty, but at the same time very caring, loving. She's always doing for us. She's always been a giver. That hasn't changed really. Her character hasn't changed. She's still feisty and she's still, mum, but she's different. She's not that same person.
And that's because of dementia?
Of the dementia, yeah, totally.
What were the first changes that you noticed in her behaviour?
It was the odd forgetfulness, the repetitiveness. I would ask her a question and then she'd answer, and then she'd ask again, and then she'd ask again, and then I'd go, but Mum, I've just said that to you. I've just given you the answer. Your typical mum-daughter relationship. Yeah. Mum, I've already said, I've already given you the answer. But because she was very clever, it's true. That's the key with Mum. She's a very clever lady, so she has managed it very well. So that was the first, and then of course it got more and more, and then between my husband and my daughter we would say, have you noticed anything?
Health and social care were integrated by the government a few years ago. Services and resources were expanded. The National Dementia Strategy says the next step is to improve the quality of our dementia services, allowing for more timely diagnoses and improved care and treatment.
Virginia was always a very positive person, very positive, very full of life. She very family loving, very sociable. She was diagnosed when she was only 60 years old. It came as a bit of a shock to us, and it could have been, she showed some symptoms before that, obviously, but we just took it, as we never knew, with the benefit of hindsight. Now we know everything explained, what was happening. She was in denial all the time. We had to go to the doctors, and if I mentioned anything about the symptoms she was having, she would be very upset with me. So what I had to do is go prepare myself some notes and hand it into the doctor's clinic before we actually went in. And that's how we managed. She started getting worse slowly. And she was showing symptoms like lack of confidence. She was losing confidence rapidly. She became very dependent on me. I was her bastion. She completely lost confidence in herself. Then she kept on not repeating, but everything she was thinking of, she was sort of relaying verbally, I'm going there, I'm doing this, I'm doing that sort of thing. And I got a bit upset at the beginning, but then she said, if you don't listen to me, and that sort of thing. Slowly I understood what was going through her. Then sometimes I saw her eyes red. She had been crying, when I got back from work. I could see that she was sad, something was, she didn't want, there's nothing, nothing. And then it'd say during the night, we're just lying there in bed, and she would, what's wrong with me? I'm going through something which I don't know. I don't know what's actually happening to me. I just gave her all the encouragement I could. Slowly, this was getting worse and worse. I started getting carers for a couple of hours. That sorted me for a while in having a bit of a break, because it was getting on, the pressure on me was terrible. I would have liked more hours, but, they've got other commitments as well, so, So I was quite happy with the 2 or 3 hours they were giving me, but I was sort of fighting against the clock, you know what I mean? I was going out, I enjoy walking a lot, I do a lot of walking, and I had to sort of look at my watch, I've got to be back before the carer comes in. And that's the way things were there for a while. Then she stopped cooking. She was ironing, and she was burning her wrist, a slow reaction, in responding, she was burning her wrist, so I stopped her doing any ironing or washing, whatever.
Alzheimer's Disease International is the umbrella organisation of more than 100 Alzheimer's associations around the world, including the Gibraltar Alzheimer's and Dementia Society. The organisation's World Alzheimer Report in 2015 divided the costs between direct medical spending, social care and informal care. Direct medical costs were the smallest of the three, about 1/5 of the total, compared with twice as much for social care and informal care. How should these costs be divided between the government and individuals and their families? How much should families pay directly towards care? Everything they can afford, or only up to some limit? With health budgets overwhelmed by COVID-19 and public borrowing continuing to climb to counter the virus's economic impact, these questions are harder to answer than ever.
Well, GAD, since 2014, we've actually been advocating that we need a special fund for dementia. And it is important because of the rise. Dementia, we hear that every 3 seconds somebody in the world develops dementia, that dementia cases are on the rise, people are living longer. And if we don't start putting money aside for dementia now, we firmly believe that the costs are going to they're going to be so high that it will be difficult to maintain maybe the standards that we have today.
Have you had any feedback from the government on what they think about creating a dementia fund?
It has been put to them, but we haven't had a reply to that.
I call her every day, the moment she wakes up to the moment she goes to bed. I ring her between 40 minutes or an hour every day, during the day, to make sure that, to give her chatting company, although the ladies go in and I go in after work, I work full time. It's just to give her something to do, and so she doesn't forget how to use the phone. And the care I give is I think what any daughter would do.
Tell us about some of the coping strategies that you have.
Okay, so as her Alzheimer's has progressed quite horribly, really, and Mum is so independent, even though we have space for her at home, and we kept saying to her, look, come home, it's not something that she wants to do. She wants to be in her little home, in her little palace. So my husband's quite an IT buff, you know, and so we installed some cameras. We've got cameras at home. She hasn't a clue. She doesn't know. They sit there, and they're quite big, but she doesn't realise. And we have cameras on her. So the moment she wakes up, I can see what she's doing. And there are times that she doesn't wake up. The carers come around 10:30, so she doesn't wake up till about 10. I'll ring her and I say, "Okay, Mum, how are you?" Oh, you know, the same conversation. That's what it is. Every day is the same conversation. How are you? Bien, you know. How did you sleep? Oh, you know. And I can see in the cameras at times that she's been up maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day in the evening, you know, having a snack or just wandering. That's one of the things that she does, is she wanders around the house. But the cameras have been a godsend for me, because if I'm worried, I look at the cameras, and I'm always looking at the cameras because she's now finding it very hard to use the phone. There are days that she can pick up the phone and she'll ring me, and it's normally when she's got the ump with me, she's cross with me or something, she'll and she's there on the button. But normally now she struggles to physically pick up the phone, to dial my mobile. It's the only number she has, because I have my number plastered on her telephone, on her little purse, everywhere, basically in her handbag, in case she gets lost, you know, someone can call her. But she finds it hard to call and make the call. She'll use the remote control, and she'll think she's ringing me, or because the purse backfires a little bit, her little purse has my mobile, so I see her sometimes pressing the number on her purse, thinking that she's actually calling me. So in that situation, I wait and see if she's going to do it, because I want her to do it. But then I think, yeah, enough, you know, so I'll pick up, oh, Mom, ¿qué pasa? Oh, did you call me? There's something wrong with my phone. Ah, sí, and then she'll call, we'll chat, and that's it. But the cameras have, just given me that peace of mind, because I don't, well, what is she doing? What's she not doing? Has she gone out? Where is she? Has she fallen? Has she not? So.
And you can monitor that from your mobile phone?
My mobile phone. I have it, sorry, that's what I'm looking. I have it sort of here constantly, making sure that she's okay, even when I'm at work. You know, I have it, I've got my PC, and I've got Mum there. And it's just it's become a habit where I'm just doing my work, and it's just, and then I carry on. If she's sad and she's doing things, it's fine, it's not a problem, you know. But it's been a godsend.
Tell us, if you would, what your personal experience has been of dementia.
Yes, very, very quickly. For a period of about 2.5 years, my mother suffered from dementia. I didn't recognise it at first. I thought she was just getting on a bit, getting a bit old, getting a bit forgetful. And then all of a sudden, you would buy something and take it to her, and then you couldn't find it half an hour later, and she would say she'd never received it. And you would find it behind the clothes rack a week later, or whatever it may be. Or I remember one particular incident that then I started to realise. I went up for Christmas Eve and drove up from the south of England to the north where she lived, and my mother was, you know, absolutely punctilious, had everything ready for Christmas Eve. It was her favourite night of the year. And I drove up, And I arrived around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, thinking that the Christmas dinner would be ready to go, and it was just her and me on this occasion. And I arrived, and we sat down and had a cup of tea, and I said, "Right, Mum, what's for supper then?" And it would always be the same thing every year. And she said, hadn't really thought about that. And so I had to get in the car, drive down to the supermarkets, which were just about to close, and buy everything off the shelves. And it got worse and worse and worse. And by the stage of her, and I'm cutting out an awful lot, she would be walking on her own late at night somewhere. And I shall never forget, and I shall always hold my heart out to the police of Cheshire, where she lived. I got a phone call. I was in the south of England, and at midnight I had a police officer, sergeant, who rang me and said he'd found my mother walking 8 miles away from home in the middle of the night, and could I come up? But it was at that stage we realised that it had gone too far. And then you get involved with social services, and then you have to find a home for your loved one to go into, which is a big challenge. Then you have to find the finances.
With more people living with dementia, who will provide care in the years to come? Many rich countries are reporting a shortage of workers willing and able to take on jobs in the care sector. Gibraltar imports most of its carers from nearby Spain.
It's got to the stage where she'll say to me, "Oh, I wanted to go home, but I didn't know, how do I do that? Do I get a bus? Do I?" And it's, you know, that's very scary. She'll ring me and say, "Daddy, I want to go to my house." And she's physically sat in her home. She's just done that this evening, actually, just before we met. "Daddy, look, I need to go home." Well, okay, no, but I want to go to my house in Gibraltar. "Okay, Mum, you're in Gibraltar, you know." "Oh, and I want to go to," and she gives out her address. So thankfully, she still remembers her, you know, where her address. So I have to then slowly say, "No, mira, Mum, you're at home. Tú estás en tu casa."
A lot of the carers working for private healthcare companies are cross-frontier workers. They assist the GHA and care agency, as well as families privately, working as carers for people with dementia. The job is generally classified as low-skilled and therefore generally poorly paid. But as we've seen on Viewpoint in the past 2 weeks, good care demands huge reserves of patience, empathy and kindness. There's an argument, therefore, that care work should be better rewarded and more highly regarded, even though that would add to the bill. How easy or difficult for you is it to sustain that supervision?
It's tough. It's overwhelming, but she's my mum. But I will do it, and I am doing it, and I have the support, you know, my husband's support, my daughter. We're a tiny little family, you know. I don't have it. That's it. It's my husband and my daughter. You know, I have my mum and father-in-law here, and they help. But you know, we are a tiny little family, and it's very tough. But she did a good job in caring for me, and caring for my daughter and looking after us. Now it's my turn. It's my turn to look after my mum as best as I can for as long as I can.